Zera Shimshon, Parshas Bahar Bechukosai. So actually this year we didn't have a double Parsha, so we started off in Parshas Bahar, and that's where this piece of the Zera Shimshon is found, is in Parshas Bahar. And in Parshas Bahar, we learned about the sabbatical year, which in Hebrew is called the Shemitah year, which is the 7th year of the growing cycle, which we are commanded to let the land lie fallow. And in Parshas Bechukosai, which is this week's Parsha, it teaches us the punishments for not letting the land remain fallow in the 7th year. To which the verse is saying, we'll just read the English, the land will then be appeased for its Shabbosos during all the days of its desolation, while you are in the land of your enemies, then the land will rest and be appeased for its Shabbosos. All the days that it lies desolate, it shall have rest, the rest it did not have on your Shabbosos when you were living upon it. And then the Zera Shimshon also quotes of verse Mem Gimel, which says, the land being bereft of them will be appeased for its Shabbosos during the time of its desolation from them, and their iniquities will be then be appeased, forgiven, since what certainly caused this is that they despise my laws and their souls loathe my statutes. So essentially the gist of the verses is that if you don't keep the sabbatical year, well, we'll be driven off the land, and the land will end up getting its sabbatical year without us. The land will rest, and just we won't be able to be on the land or come back to that land because we didn't keep the sabbatical year. And the Zera Shimshon asked a very interesting question. Well, that's fine and dandy if the Jews were kicked off the land and then nobody comes in and works the land, right? However, world history has shown that that is exactly not what happens, right? We get kicked out the land and the Greeks come in, and we get kicked out the land and the Romans come in, and the Arabs come in, and the British come in, and they just ended up working the land. So when the Jews get kicked off the land, it just comes out that somebody else works the land. So the land never gets the rest that the Torah is describing. So it's an interesting question. You hear what he's saying? So to be able to understand this question and get an answer to this question, we need to see seemingly esoteric Gemara in Masechtas Gittin. So it says, Bila Hashem v'lo chamal eis kol nos Yaakov. The Lord has swallowed up without pity all the habitations of Jacob. That's a verse in Eicha, in Lamentations. And the Gemara comments, Ki also Ravin, the Amar Rabbi Yochanan, when Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael to Babylon, he reported in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Elu Shishim Riboy Ayaro Shahayu Lo Leyanai Amelech Behar Amelech. When Ravin came to Eretz Yisrael to Babylonia, he said that Rav Yochanan says this is referring to the 600,000 cities that Yanai the king had in the king's mountains. As the Amar Rabbi Yehuda v'Amar Ravasi, Shishim Riboy Ayaros Hayu Lo Leyanai Amelech Bahar Amelech, and Kol Achaz v'Achaz Hayu Ba K'Yotzim Mitzrayim, Chutz Mishalosha Shahayu Behem Klefayim K'Yotzim Mitzrayim. This is referring to the 600,000 cities that King Yanai had in the king's mountain. As Rabbi Yehuda says, that Ravasi says King Yanai had 600,000 cities in the king's mountains, and each of them had a population as great as the number of those who left Egypt, except for the 3 of those cities, to which the population was double of those who left Egypt. We know that we're talking about 600,000 people left Egypt, and so that means that those 3 cities each had a population of 1.2 million. And it's kind of interesting because essentially we're saying here that there was a time in Jewish history where a small area called Har HaMelech had 600,000 cities, and each of those 600,000 cities had 600,000 people, except for 3 of them that had 1.2 million people each. Okay, good luck with the archaeology on that one, right? We're going to skip just a few lines in the Gemara, to which the Gemara then says, V'amar Ula said, Lididi chazi li hahu asra. Ula said, I actually went to that place that you're describing. That place that you said holds 600,000 cities that each had 600,000 people couldn't even hold 600 poles. So what are you talking about? And a certain heretic one time said to Rav Chanina, Shakure mishaktitsu. Your saying of your rabbis is a lie. So Rav Chanina explained to him in response, V'amar le Eretz Tzvi. Now, just for like your own clarification, I don't think the verse actually says Eretz Tzvi. I think it says Eretz HaTzvi. Kosova Matzvi ze ein oro maxich es v'sarei af Eretz Yisrael b'zman sheyoshven ale'a rachava u'b'zman she'ein yoshven ale'a gamda. So with regard to Eretz Yisrael, it is written, the land of deer. Just as the skin of a deer cannot hold its flesh, for after the animal is skinned, its hide shrinks, So too with regard to Eretz Yisrael. When it is settled, it expands, but when it is not settled, it contracts. This explains how a place so small today could have been so highly populated prior to the temple's destruction. Now, let's just recap the conversation that the Talmud's having. The Talmud says that there was a rabbi who said that in a small area in Jerusalem, there were 600,000 cities. Each one had 600,000 people in it, except for 3 that had 1.2 million people. Came along another rabbi and said, well, I was there one time, and I don't even think that area that you call Har HaMelech, that place that you said 600,000 cities were, could hold even 600 sticks. And a heretic went up to Rochanina, essentially asked a very similar question, but he referred to them as a liar, right? He called the rabbis liar. Now, you might say, well, isn't Ullah's statement itself kind of very similar? But Ullah never refers to the rabbis as a liar, okay? He just says, well, it doesn't hold 600 sticks, while this heretic said that they lie. But besides that fact, Rabbi Yehuda responded to him that Eretz Yisrael is referred to the land of the deer. And the deer is unique among animals, that when the deer is whole, the skin covers all of its flesh. But the second you cut off the skin from the deer, it no longer has the ability to cover all the flesh, while by other animals, it does have that ability. So he wants to say the same is true about Eretz Yisrael. When it is settled, it expands. But when it is not settled, it contracts. So now, what is the extrapolation that we need to make here? Many people want to learn this piece of the Talmud as esoteric and symbolic, but the Zera Shimshon does not learn it that way. And in my last year that we gave, we said that the Chazal, our rabbis, refer to Eretz Yisrael and benching as Tova or Chava, as an expansive land. Now, last time we learned, we said that expansive is spiritually expansive. But today, we're going to take the words literally and say that they literally are, when they refer to Eretz Yisrael as expansive, they mean big, like physically big. But they didn't use the word big. They used the word expansive. Okay? So what were they saying when they say that in benching? So what they're saying is what this Gemara is saying is that when the Jewish people live in the land of Israel and they do the will of God, because even the word tzvi like means beauty, or it can mean like something that's chamuda, like something like that, right? Okay, when we act like the Eretz Tzvi, when we act like the land of the deer, meaning in a beautiful way, running to do mitzvahs, the land is expansive like the skin of the deer, meaning that when you look at it on a map, it does not look that big, and it will never look that big. But you never run out of room in Israel. Meaning the land just keeps expanding. It's like a complete miracle. It says in the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, I believe, that when people would bow down in the temple sanctuary, it defied the rules of physics. There was always room for every single person who bowed down. That even though mathematically it should be that if you were staring above and you calculated the area and you looked at how many people there were and how much room they would take up, it should be that when they all bowed down, they would all land on each other. But for some reason, the second they bound down, the ground would like expand, and there would always be room. Because Israel is a literally expansive place. It's a place of miracles. So we're saying that when the Jewish people live on their land, the land expands. The Israel that you see today, that we see today, is only a fraction of what it really is. There's actually more that is hidden away and will be revealed when we do good deeds. This says the Zera Shimshon is the pshat. This is the explanation of the verses that we saw in Leviticus. That when it says that the land will have a rest, meaning, I believe this was in verse like 34 or something like that, it says, then the land will then be appeased for the Shabbosos all the days of its desolation while you are in the land of your enemies. Then the land will rest and be appeased for Shabbos. All the days that it lies desolate, it shall have its rest. The rest it did not have on your Shabbosos when you're living upon it. Because here's what happens. So Israel should be like this flat piece of paper, right? When the Jewish people behave well and live on the land, it's like this flat piece of paper. But when we don't keep Shemitah, Hashem kicks us off the land, and the land goes like this. Okay? It becomes like this folded up piece of paper, and all we have is like living on the tippy top of it. Okay? So the land is literally disappears. Like there is no greater rest than that. So meaning the non-Jews who stay and inherit this land They're only working like on this little tippy top of the land, something that's like maybe 1/600th of all the land that really exists in Israel. That's all they're working on. And even in that 1/600th, very little fruits come out. Take a look at what the land of Israel looked like before the Jewish people were even there. But when the Jewish people are in their land and they're behaving well, it has to be that there's both. The land goes from like this to like this. It just expands on its own. We don't have to do anything. The land of Israel expands, and you won't see it on a map, okay? You'll just be there and you'll just realize, wow, I should have only had 100 feet of space to build my house, but apparently I have 1,000 feet of space. And then when you would look up in the air, you would only see 100 feet of space. It's like a complete miracle. So that's the meaning. The meaning is the land will literally disappear and it will have a full blown rest because it won't be there anymore if we don't keep the Shemitah. So therefore, the non-Jews don't get to work that land when we're kicked off, and the land has a true full rest. What a beautiful, amazing shot from the Zera Shimshon.